So hello, Sean Adam Liquiz, and for today's video I will be having an orientation regarding on the activity that we'll be doing after this. So I'll start. So we have 3-minute step test. So this is the first thing that you'll do, and you will need a step approximately 30 centimeter high. You could use the bottom step on the stairs, or you could find any step that you can step in your area. Okay, so another thing that you'll need would be the counter, and if you don't have, you can have the stopwatch, clock, or a timer of your cell phone. Okay, so let's start. So the procedure for this is to first start the counter and set yourself a timer for 3 minutes. 3 minutes only. Okay, then step on and off the step 1 foot at a time, stepping at a consistent pace to the beat of the metronome counter. Okay, next is to perform this for 3 minutes without stopping. Okay, without stopping. So if you need to rest at any point, try to remain standing. Okay, or once the 3 minutes is up, you check your pulse, count the number of beats for 60 seconds, and then record its number and submit using the form below. So I have sent the form on your via messenger, and you can view that after this. Okay, and that will serve as your recording sheet for the activities that we'll be doing. Then next would be partial curl up. So equipment that you'll need for partial curl up, you prepare a flat, clean cushion surface, recording sheets, and pen for the results. Okay, then first is to lie on your back with your knees bent and your feet about 12 inches from your backside. Then extend your arms forward with your fingers pointing toward your knees. Okay, raise your head and upper body off the floor, sliding your hands forward and touching your knees with your fingertips. Then as you raise your head, your hands should remain on the ground. Okay, then slowly return to your original position. Continue doing curl-ups at a rate of 1 every 3 seconds until you can no longer maintain this pace. Okay, the next would be girth measurements. So girth measurements, this would include the chest, the right calf, the upper arm, the forearm, the waist, the hip. Okay, so the equipment that you'll need for girth measurements would be tape measure and of course yourself. Okay, then for the chest, measuring the chest, take a soft tape measure and wrap it under your armpits at the widest part of your chest. Then the tape measure should be snug around your chest and shoulder blades, but not so tight that it compresses your chest. So the number in centimeter, measure that in centimeter, and that you can record the result of your chest size. Okay, next is to hold the end of a soft measuring tape over the highest point of your biceps and around it, so both ends to meet your measurement, and still measure it in centimeter. Your right upper arm. So the right is here. Measure it in here. Okay, in centimeter. Okay, next is the forearm, the right forearm. So the measurement is taken along the forearm at the point of the largest circumference. So the maximal girth is not always obvious, and a tape may need to be moved up and down along the forearm to find the point of maximum circumference, which will usually be found closer to the elbow. Then still measure in centimeter. So all girth measurements should be measured in centimeter. Okay, next is the waist. Start at the top. You'll know where the waist is. So for the waist, start at the top of your hip bone. Then bring the tape measure all the way around your body, level with your belly button. Then make sure it's not too tight and not too loose, and that it's straight even at the back. So don't hold your breath while measuring. Okay, check the number on your tape measure right after you exhale. Then still measure in centimeter. Okay. Next is for the hips. How do you measure hips? Then hold the measuring tape parallel to the floor. Circle it around the waist part of the hips, crossing behind the back. Then meet the measuring tape with your other finger to find your hip size, and hold the tape still so that it doesn't sag or twist around the hip area, and still measure it in centimeter. And for the next one, the thigh, stand with your feet hip width apart and your waist placed evenly on both legs. Measure the length of your leg from the knee to hip bone, then find the midway point. Then wrap the tape measure around the leg so that you can to get your thigh measurement. Then still measure in centimeter. Then for the next one, for the last one, for the girth measurement is the calf. Then sit in a chair and hold your bare foot down, holding your leg folded to 90 degrees. So in this position, with the tape measure the circumference of the calf at its widest point. Then laying the tape measure in your skin without tightening. Not too loose, not too tight. Remember, then measure it in centimeter. Okay, so I have sent you the images regarding how to the position and the areas and where you'll measuring these girth measurements. Okay, so next would be the static and dynamic postural assessment. So when you say static, you'll just have to stand and don't move. While dynamic, you'll have to move. Okay, it's the opposite. Okay, so the for the equipments that you'll be needing when assessing static and dynamic, prepare ball pen, the fitness assessment form, and then wear fit shirt or rubber shoes. If you have long hair, you can tie it. Okay, then let's start with the static postural assessment. Okay, then for the static postural assessment, so let us start with the static postural assessment. So you may look on the form that I have sent you. Now you can see that in the static postural assessment, the first part, so the view, we have here the lateral view and the anterior view. So the lateral view would be side, the camera will face the side, the back, and the side of you, and then the anterior would be the camera will face the front of you. Okay, so the kinetic change checkpoints would be the head, shoulder, and lumbo-pelvic hip for the lateral view. And for the head, you just have to stand there, and I will check if you have forward head, protracted, or is it retracted or protracted. And for the lumbo-pelvic hip, I'll check if you have anteriorly tilted lumbo-pelvic hip or posteriorly tilted lumbo-pelvic hip. And for the anterior view, we have here the knees and the feet. So just have to stand in front of the camera, and I'll see your knees, if you have adducted knees, internally rotated knees, externally rotated knees. Then feet, I'll check if it's flat on the ground, internally rotated or externally rotated. Okay, so next would be a dynamic postural assessment, the overhead squat. The overhead squat, and you will imagine you're holding 2 dumbbells in your hands and engage your hands, your core, chest up. Drive the dumbbells straight overhead or upwards, and lock out your elbows. Then slowly drive your hips back bending your knees, keeping your core tight until your thighs are parallel to the floor or lower. Then slowly push back up, returning to the starting position. Okay. For this, I'll also send pictures for overhead squat so that you can view what would it be like. Okay. The next is for the okay, let's go back with the assessment. Let's look again the fitness assessment form. So we have here the view for the overhead squat, the anterior view, the lateral view, and now we have the posterior view. So as I've said earlier about the static, the anterior view is facing the camera. Lateral view is your side is facing the camera, and then posterior view is your back facing the camera. So it should be like this. That. Then for the kinetic chain checkpoints, we will see your feet. I will be seeing your feet, your knees, your lumbopelvic hip, your shoulder, your feet in posterior view, your lumbopelvic hip, and then your shoulder. Then for the anterior view, I'll see if your feet and knees turns out, moves inward or moves outward, and the lumbopelvic hip, if there's excessive forward lean, low back arches, and low back rounds. Okay. For the shoulder in lateral view, we'll be also seeing if you have arms fall forward. Okay. Then for the feet is in the posterior view, and lumbopelvic hip as well as the shoulder. I'll check if your foot is flattened, if your heel foot rises, if you have a symmetry weight shift, and for the shoulder, I'll check if your shoulder elevates. Okay, so all you have to do is position yourself in front of the cam, outside of the cam, and back of the cam. Okay. Then for the dynamic postural assessment, the single leg squat. Okay. So the single leg squat is a squat movement that is performed with only one leg. So usara ka leg in perform. So it adds a balance and stability challenge to the traditional squats, and these are sometimes called pistol squats, single leg squats, or pistol squats. This type of squat is an intermediate to advanced exercise, so you should only move on to single leg squats after you've mastered the squat movement on both legs. But if you are new to the move, it can also be modified using a chair. So for now, you will not be using a chair. You just have to stand there and perform the single leg squat. So how to do a single leg squat? So you don't need any equipment to perform a single leg squat. You can hold a dumbbell in each hand, or a medicine ball with both hands if you're looking for more of a challenge. But it's okay if you don't hold anything. You just have to position your hands in there. Okay, then start by standing on your right foot. Lift your left leg out and hold it out straight and slightly in front of your torso. You could also just bend. Okay, bend. What to bend? So bend your knees and keep your left leg elevated to start. Okay, keep your left leg elevated as you bend your knees. So your arms can be by your side or out in front of you for balance. You can just put your hands like this in position as you do the things on your legs, knees. Okay. Next is to keep your core engaged and your torso up throughout the movement. Then start to push your hips back as you lower into a squat position. Then aim to get low enough that your hips are parallel to the ground. And then squeeze your glutes as you push into the right foot. Keep your for the next step is to keep your core engaged and your torso up throughout the movement. Then start to push your hips back as you lower into a squat position. Then aim to get low enough that your hips are parallel to the ground. Make sure that your hips are parallel to the ground when doing those steps. Okay, the next part is squeeze your glutes as you push it to the right foot to stand back up. And try to keep your left leg up between repetitions. Okay, another thing is that I'll be sending this video via messenger. You may have seen that, or as a so I know that you've seen the videos that I've sent you via messenger, and I know that this will be easy for you now. Okay, then pulling and pushing assessments. You know what is pull already, you know how to push already. So this is done by observing how you pull and push during the standard exercises. I can expose muscle imbalances and deficiencies in your upper extremities. The muscle imbalances can lead to pain and injury, and by identifying these issues, I can improve your quality of life and fitness results. So you can just have to do the push and pull. You can use a rope tied on a sturdy surface, a sturdy an object, and then pull and push. And then I'll be observing what happened to your shoulders, if it is elevated or not. And for the feet, I will observe also if it moves outward or inward, as well as your knees. Then let's see the kinetic chain checkpoints. We will not be needing any view here. We will not be using the lateral view, the posterior view, the anterior view. Let's just continue with the kinetic chain checkpoints. And these are feet, knees, lumbar, pelvic, hip, the shoulder, and the head. So start with the feet. I'll see if that turns out. Your knees, I'll see if that moves inward. Your lumbar, pelvic, hip, I'll see if that pelvic hip, I'll see if that shows low back arches. And for the hip as well, I'll see if that shows low back rounds. So the difference of the low back arches and the low back rounds is that low back arches, consider this as your back, and if that have a curve in there, that is a low back arch. And if that has a like that would be the low back rounds. If forming a round or side of your spinal cord or your back forms a round part, okay, round area in this part, okay, this part, okay. So I'll be checking if you have that or you have not. Then for the dynamic postural assessment, pulling. So we're done with pushing. Now let's proceed with pulling. Same goes by pushing. I just have to see if you have these abnormalities in your positions as you do those activities. So same as pushing, same procedure for pulling, okay. I'll see turns out, moves inward, low back arches, low back rounds, shoulders elevate, and then head protrudes. Head protrudes would look like this. Like that. And the normal and the ideal movement, or you can see for the head, is like that. This close to straight. and for the protruding head would be like that. Okay, so